Hey everyone, welcome to this session of Decode 2024. I hope you've enjoyed the event so far. There's been some fantastic sessions, a couple of favorites that I've seen. The AI keynote from Jason Cohen, if you've not had a chance to see that one yet, make sure you go back and catch the recording. And also the WordPress 6.5 session, a little bit of a sneak peek of what's coming in WordPress core by Damon Cook earlier was really good as well. So make sure you go back and check that one. But this session here is all about everyone's favorite plugin, ACF. Look, my name is Rob Stinson. I'm one of the product marketers here at WP Engine. And I sort of get my hands on a whole bunch of the builder and developer tools that we have here. One of those being advanced custom fields, which is a lot of fun to work with. And today I'm going to be presenting with a good friend of mine and the senior engineer on ACF, Liam Gladdy. So Liam, why don't you say g'day and introduce yourself?
G'day. How was that Australian accent? I promised I'd at least try it. Yeah, hey everyone. Excited to be here. Got some cool things to show you in the world of blocks today.
Cool. Thanks, mate. Look, intros aside, let's set some expectations for this session. You know, you could just say this is just a couple of blokes talking about a couple of blocks, but no, what we are here to do is look at ACF and particularly building custom blocks with ACF. Of course, ACF has been around for over a decade now, used on millions of sites across the internet. And the feature set all around building custom blocks is emerging really as the favorite feature within this incredible plugin. So we're going to be diving deep today, looking at a whole bunch of interesting things that you can do and can achieve with custom blocks with ACF, which is pretty cool. But look, we're not just going to look at the features. We're not just going to be clicking around and talking about stuff and reading documentation. We all are all going to be looking through the lens of a particular website. And I want to show you this because it's always fun to just work on a particular website because it gives you a bit of a framing for everything. And this website is for an internationally acclaimed, you could say Ivy League educational organization called the Steve Irwin Center for Kids Who Can't Wrestle Crocs Good and want to learn to do other stuff good too. Maybe just a little bit of a call out to that good old movie Zoolander there. But no, this is a site that Liam and I have sort of pulled together just to sort of showcase again all those features around custom blocks. And of course, educational sites are perfect for this. If you've ever built a college or a university style website, there's always something interesting happening. Interesting designs, of course, but your different, custom post types for courses and subjects. You have, maybe interesting interactions, the need for sign-up flows. Anyway, there's always something interesting happening on an educational resource. A very media-rich, very sort of lots and lots of news articles and things like that, heaps happening. So a great example of the kind of site where custom blocks really come in. But let's have a look at this as we scroll down. Look, a bunch of this is built with custom blocks. It's also worth calling out that the theme that we have built a child theme upon for this is the theme called Frost. Another great tool out of WP Engine. So check out Frost another time if you like. Let's have a look. So looking nice. And just some interesting things throughout the site that we'll look at soon. Like, these tiles here are actually clickable and go through to, different pages. Academic programs. These course tiles have got just some interesting interactions and animations happening on them that, you can't really do with WordPress core. And then further down, we have the, a subscription sort of interaction thing. So an integration here with a third-party newsletter or email service. So other than looking like a fairly nice design, maybe perhaps some unique CSS that is floating around also that justifies some custom block work. Again, some interesting interactions. But yeah, we're going to use this site as the lens for which we showcase custom blocks and the kind of the cool things you can do with ACF. But let's have a look at the first block. And block number one that we're going to look at is actually this hero block right here at the top of the page. Now, look, you could do actually most of this, very close to this with core blocks, but I just want to sort of start with a bit of a 101 on custom blocks and just sort of keep it simple at first. But first of all, why would you build a custom block? Again, look, sometimes when you're building out a site, you might be working with a really good designer and the design has been really fine-tuned. At the end of the day, you can't do that with the off-the-shelf options that WordPress core provides you, perhaps, and so you need to build out a custom block, or perhaps you have a particular integration or an interaction type that you need to facilitate with some custom CSS or JavaScript, or even just some fancy templating work, and you really need to step into the custom block territory. But look, this one, hero block, look, it kind of looks nice. It's not particularly crazy, but for whatever reason, we're deciding now to build a custom block for this. And I just want to showcase how you would go to do this, just to sort of set that sort of groundwork understanding for how to go about doing this. If you've got ACF installed and active, you go about creating a field group as you normally would. And you can see here, I've got this field group called Big Hero, and I've got a whole bunch of fields that I've set up to sort of facilitate mostly the content, but then, the background image as well. You can see we've got heading and text, and we've got button 1 text and link, button 2 text and link. I could have maybe done a repeater field here, but I've just broken those out into individual fields for now. And then that image field type for the background image. So nothing too crazy there, but I've set up my field group. Now, what I have to do now to set things up is register our custom blocks. And we do this, in this case, in the functions file of our child theme. Again, you have options for doing this. If you're setting up a plugin to facilitate your custom blocks, you can do it in there. But we have a child theme for the theme Frost, and we're just sort of registering our custom blocks there. And you can see we just do this here, and you can see how I've registered the Big Hero block, and there's a couple more here that we'll look at a bit later. So I've registered the block in our functions file, and the next thing we have to do is set up a couple of directories or folders and files. So within our child theme, we have added the blocks folder, and then we've added another folder for each of our custom blocks. The first one here is our Big Hero folder, and within that we have a number of files. The first one is block CSS, and we'll go look at this shortly. This is just styling, nothing particularly unique or ACF specific around this. Is just the place where we can apply our custom CSS for our custom block. It's also worth calling out that any CSS that you place in here is scoped to this block. There we go. Is scoped to this block. And what I mean by that is that this CSS is only loaded on the front end if this block is loaded on the front end. So that's great. So if we don't use a hero block in this case on a page, then this CSS is not going to be loaded. And that's important for performance when you're trying to keep the total file size of a page as small as possible. We then have this block.json file. This is an important file, and this is where we sort of do a bunch of the setup and configuration for our custom blocks. Things like name, title, and description, a few ACF specific configuration options, and things like the things that we want to allow support for our custom block. We can sort of set where our styling file is loaded from. In this case, you can see that block.css, which corresponds with our CSS file here. You can set the custom icon, keywords, and things like that. So this is an important file to understand. So I encourage you to go check out the documentation on this. And the final file is our block.php file, which is just the template. Now, if you've templated before with ACF, this will look very, very familiar to you. Really, it follows those really typical PHP and ACF development practices that you most likely know and love, but instead of building out a sort of full page template or a post template, we're building out a block template, but we're interacting with our fields in a very similar way. So my HTML markup is just down here, and I'm interacting with the various PHP variables that I've sort of set up further up here, where I interact with our field group fields. So I hope that makes makes lots of sense for you. So that's basically it. You saw how we registered the custom block. We set up our field group and added fields, and then we set up our required folders and files for our block templating. But of course, now let's have a look at what this all comes together to look like in the editor. Let me just decramp this space a little bit. If we go up to the top, you can see our hero section. If we click on that, you can see all of our fields as you would expect. Change our background image. We can change, our text for our heading, and the same for the text and everything like that. Change our text and links for the buttons. So nice and simple. And look, it's worth calling out that one of the things that I love about building custom blocks, and I'm aware that actually WordPress quarters facilitate this a lot more, sort of in recent releases, is that as the web developer, you can have better control over the options that are passed through to your editors and content creators. For instance, you can see here, this is pretty dialed in. I'm really just giving the content creator the option, well, 1, to add the block to the page, but 2, just to change the text, change the heading, change the text here, and change the buttons. And really, they can change the background image, and that's it. There's no sort of styling controls or layout controls. But I could add that in, but at the end of the day, as the developer or the designer working on this site, I can pass through only the options that I want to make available. And if I'm an agency or a freelancer, that's really important to me if I want to have a long-term, ongoing maintenance relationship with the client, perhaps, and this website, knowing that the things that they are changing are only the things that I want to be changed, and it keeps things nice and neat and tidy. So look, that was a bit of the 101 on custom blocks with ACF. We sort of built that out. I showed you how everything's set up. It's all pretty simple. But let's have a look at another one that does something a little bit more interesting. It is actually really simple, this one. And I call this one the link wrapper block. Now, if you saw down here on our page for the Steve-O and Center for Kids Who Can't Wrestle, Crocs good and want to learn to do other stuff good too. These tiles here are clickable. You can see as I hover over them, I'm given the option of clicking on them and being sent off to another page or another site or somewhere. Now, you can't actually do that with the core blocks within WordPress. You can, of course, create buttons and you can make other things linkable, but you can't make a full group of blocks or anything like that actually clickable. And I understand there is some rationale. I did some digging into this, and there's some HTML structure risks with this. For instance, you don't want to create a group of blocks and make them all clickable and then put a button within that as well, because then you've got an anchor element nested inside of an anchor element, and that's a no-no. So there are some things that, there is some rationale why that is not available perhaps within WordPress core. I think that there's considerations to figure that out, but at the current stage, you can't do it. But it is also a really common design practice to, perfect example here is to have tiles that are clickable that send you off to do, different places on the site. And what I have done is I've created a link wrapper block, which basically lets you add the block on the page and then drop whatever you want inside it and make all of it clickable to wherever you want. So let's have a look at that. If we look at our field groups, we have the link block, or perhaps I should have enabled that link wrapper block. And I've just got one text field here called link, and that's simply it. I could have made that a URL field type, but I've made it a text field type. And the reason for that is you might want to link to somewhere an anchor on the page itself. So you just want to hashtag anchor. You don't want to actually have to input the full URL. But anyway, it's just a single field, super simple. I just realized one thing I didn't call out before is that when you are setting up your field group and you've registered the custom block and you've set up your appropriate files and folders, is that in the field group here, you have to go down to your location rules and make sure that you assign the field group to the appropriate block. So you can see the previous one with the hero block, I would have assigned it to the big hero block, and this one here is to the link wrapper. So I'm going to save those changes. Nice and simple. And assuming that I've gone through all the setup steps around registering and folders and files and everything that I showcased before, let's just have a little look at our template files for this. So first of all, let's look at the JSON. Nothing crazy here, just the basics. description is probably the most interesting thing, really. So it's easy to understand what this particular block does and the keywords, things like that. Looking at the template file, really, really simple. Like the main part really is just that it's just an anchor where we are going to echo out we are going to echo out the variable which we have grabbed from our field group, or from our custom field for link. But really the only interesting thing really I should call out is that I have a bit of conditional logic here. And I'm saying that if the page that this is being rendered on is not in the admin, then please load the wrapping anchor tag. Otherwise, just don't wrap it in an anchor tag. And look, the reason for that is when I'm in the editor, I'm in the block editor, I don't want to actually click on that link and then be directed off somewhere else. I want to be able to interact with everything that I include within that block without it sending me off somewhere else. So that's what that conditional logic is for. But of course, if it's on the front end, yes, please wrap it in that anchor tag so that the tile in this case is clickable. But look, the important thing to understand really is this little superpower, which is just this inner blocks element which ACF gives us, which is just so simple and so easy. But what this means is that we can now add any other blocks that we want within this custom block. So let's have a look at that right now in action. So let's go back to our editor for this page. And these are these tiles that we've created. So I click on one of those and I'm going to look at this view here. It's going to cramp things up a little bit awkwardly. So apologies for that. But you can see I've got columns, which sort of handles the whole sort of section there. Column 1 is empty. Column 2 is where we have our first tile. I have my link wrapper custom block right here. And currently the link is going off to my website, but let's change that to, we will probably have that actually to somewhere on the site itself, but wpengine.com or wherever we want to link to on the website. And then within that, I'm able to sort of add whatever other blocks that I wanted. So I added this group block, and that gives me the ability to add my background image. And I added some padding at the top, which sort of pushes our content down towards the bottom, so that when on the internals of it all, I have another group, which gives me the ability to have that sort of dark to transparent gradient, and then the paragraph, which gives us our white text there. But let me just show you perhaps from scratch. If we go link wrapper, you can see within that we can add whatever blocks that perhaps we want within that. Let's just go update for now. Go over to our front end. Oh, and just calling out as well that conditional logic that I use to ensure that the blocks didn't link us off anywhere in the editor. So I can click on these now and interact with them, of course, without the browser trying to send me somewhere. But then over here on the front end, little quick refresh, I can click on this first one, for example, and it sends me off to the URL that we specified earlier, which was wpengine.com. So super simple, but honestly, really, really cool. This is actually one of those blocks that I think is going to sort of travel with me as a bit of a utilitarian style block that I'm going to have in my back pocket for many sites that I build. If I want to create these kind of interactive tiles where I want someone to click and go somewhere, this little link wrapper custom block, so let's call it a hack, but it's not a hack, it's legit. That's pretty handy, but it's a great demonstration of that inner blocks feature that I showed you there. So look, that's custom block number 2, the hero block, just the basics, nice and simple. The inner blocks one, a little bit more interesting, still nice and simple, but I'm going to throw over to Liam now. As I said, he's the senior engineer on ACF itself. So man, this dude knows ACF, he knows WordPress, he knows his stuff, and he's going to show us some cool things now with a couple more custom blocks. Cheers, Liam. Take it away, mate.
Cool. Cheers, Rob. Right, so I'm going to focus on two other blocks that we have on the page here. Rob's obviously done a great job showing you the top two, but if we go further down here, obviously, as Rob mentioned earlier in the presentation, being one of Australia's most prestigious schools, we obviously have many courses available. So we needed to create a custom post type for courses so that we can add and remove and modify dates and all that kind of stuff that such a prestigious, excellent school would want to do. So if we go into here, you can see that this is a feature we shipped last year. It's called Post Types and Taxonomies. There's two new sections here in ACF, Post Types and Taxonomies. And it lets us create objects in WordPress that we're going to have multiple of, right? So we've got courses and we've got subjects. I'll show you an example of creating one of these. Let's say we want to do testimonials. We add the plural label, add the singular label, and then we get the post type key. We hit save, and then simple as that, it already appears here, and we can create and add as many of these as we want to. So it's really simple to get started with custom post types in ACF, and we have done so with courses. So let me show you what we have in our field groups for courses here. So they're relatively basic, but we have descriptions, locations, the location, the start date and the end date of each course. Obviously, being such a wonderful school, we have sites all over Australia. So if we go into courses, you can see Rob has pre-filled some of these. Obviously, I don't have the experience and knowledge of what is involved in a Croc school. But he has added some for us here. We've got Wrangling 101. We've set the featured image, description, location, start date and end date. And those are kind of the basic fields that we need to display our tiles here for each of the courses. Now, these are really simple. It uses something called the query loop block. Now, this is, there we go. This is a core WordPress block. And what it does is it loops over, much like the query that you might be used to from kind of classic WordPress development. And it allows us to set the post type that we want to loop over, whether we want newest to oldest, all that kind of things, and a bunch of extra things. You can do filters now. This is really new, so you can only show courses published by a certain author or that have a keyword assigned to them. But we get these two sections by default. So the post template and the no results. The no results is just the text that gets displayed when there is no courses available. And inside the course template, you put everything that you want repeated nicely for each item that matches the query loop. So in our case, each course. We've set it to 3 columns here, but as you can see, the course information tile is the ACF block. Now, what's interesting about this is it actually has no fields assigned to it because it doesn't need to, right? It's going to read the results and the data directly from the course's post type, rather than the fields being assigned to the block themselves. So this gives you a way to kind of use ACF to save you having to write complicated React blocks or something like that would show that data. If I hop over to the code here, you see it's a relatively basic block. No JavaScript even, just the CSS, which is similar to Rob's examples earlier. Nothing specific to ACF, just what we need to make it work. And his is the actual code, the template that gets rendered. The difference here to how you would render an ACF block that was reading the fields from the ACF block, like in Rob's examples, is we pass post ID in. This is a magic variable that gets set in your template that changes as we loop over each item in the query. So it lets us use the WordPress methods to get the thumbnail, the permalink, the title, all that kind of thing. And then we use the field to read description, location, and then the end dates and start date using the post ID. So that's how we get that rendered. If we hop back over here, you can see the results there. Nice and simple. And my second block I'm going to show you is a little bit different. Right at the bottom of the page here, we have this nice contact section block. Uses just standard core blocks here, so we're using columns to add buttons and text. But the interesting thing here is this bottom column. So we've used custom margins and paddings here to bump these two up against each other so that there doesn't look like there's a gap, and we've connected everything up. This is all available in the Style tab. This is all just standard WordPress defaults, and we can set borders and all that kind of stuff. But what's interesting here, and this is our block, is this ConvertKit block. So it lives really small part of the block here, just at the bottom corner, and it lets us fill in an email address and gives us a subscribe button. Now, as you can see, it's called ConvertKit, so we're going to send it over to ConvertKit. If I open the code for this one, it's a little more complicated. So we have a functions file. This is probably fairly unusual for a block because we want to provide a whole bunch of PHP support for the block, but still maintain it kind of being portable. And we have a JavaScript file, so we have to have this asset.php. This file just returns what dependencies and what version we're on. So it says that our newsletter.js file requires jQuery, and then WordPress will make sure that jQuery is loaded and available to us, and we're all good to go. So yeah, same as before, CSS here, nothing specific. We use some of the WordPress variables to allow us to change the colors and inherit from the block theme itself. And I'll show you the functions file. We've got the standard register block type. So instead of calling register block type in the themes functions, we just include this functions file and then it registers itself. And then we've got two custom things that obviously we've not seen on the block before. And it is providing two Ajax endpoints, one for logged in users, one for not logged in users. This is using the legacy admin Ajax functionality that WordPress added many years ago, and I'm sure you've all seen. We check the referrer for security. We take the email address that was posted from the form, and we just do what we need to do to send it over to ConvertKit's API. The reason we have to do this, and rather than posting directly on the front end in JavaScript, is because we have to send the API key, and we obviously need to keep that secret, so we don't want our users to see that. We just post it over, get the result. Anything goes wrong, we send over a status of error. Anything was when it was successful, we send over success. And then our JavaScript here is relatively basic again. It uses the jQuery ready function that you've probably seen from sort of classic WordPress development. And this is ACF giving you a way to use that kind of classic language and jQuery and all the things you might know from classic WordPress dev and bringing it into the React world. So you don't need to know React. You don't have to code everything in React and write your own Ajax endpoints and all that kind of stuff. And the code to do that in React, you can do it in jQuery. So we do the usual prevent default to stop the form submitting. We get the email and the nonce, and then we send it over to our new Ajax endpoint that we get from the form. You can see we do this by reading the action attribute of the form. And then if on success, we put in a nice success message. Error, we log it to the console and just show that something went wrong. Obviously, you probably want to flesh this out a little bit more and handle errors nicer and let them resubmit and all that kind of stuff. But just for this demo, it's nice and simple. If I show the template, even simpler than our last block here, we have the form, we set the admin Ajax URL so we know where to post to, and then we put the inputs out and then the security nonce as well. And so if I go back to the code and show you this on the front end, here we are, nice and easy. Fill this in, hit subscribe, it goes off to ConvertKit, and there we go. Puts out the result that we've got from our template into the editor. And that is it for me. Back to you, Rob.
Liam, mate, thanks for that. Look, I've been using ACF for like almost a decade, and I've learned stuff researching for this session, and I even learned stuff, Liam, mate, from those couple of blocks that you showed us there. Look, this is a seriously powerful plugin, and you can do some incredibly powerful things with it, as you've seen today. But look, that's it. We've covered 4 custom blocks covering dozens of features. Look, and I hope you've learned something new, learned something interesting. Look, and I do want to give a shout out to the whole product team behind ACF. The work that they have done, especially over the last 12 months, is a real testament to their team and also WP Engine's commitment to being custodians of this plugin and making it even better for the, like I said, the millions of websites that use it to extend WordPress. So I'm super privileged and proud to be part of the team on this. And look, honestly, what we have planned for 2024, particularly around custom blocks as well, is actually really exciting. So keep an eye on some releases and some announcements about releases over the coming couple of quarters, because if you like what you've seen today, you're going to really like what we have in store for you this year. It's exciting stuff. Liam, mate, thanks so much for co-conspiring with me today and doing this session. It was lots and lots of fun. Like I said, I learned heaps researching and preparing for this.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, everyone. Enjoyed your code.
And look, if anyone wants to find out more about advanced custom fields, this all may be very new to you, or perhaps like myself, you've been using ACF for 10 years, but you want to go check things out a bit more. Advancedcustomfields.com is the website to go to, so go check that out. Also, a quick thanks and credit to the photographers that have produced the photos used in today's demo. They were provided through Unsplash, so thanks and credit to them. And look, I hope you enjoy the rest of Decode. I hope this session was good for you. There is so much more to come. And of course, the recordings are going to be provided. So if you've missed any sessions, make sure you go dig up those recordings and watch them at a later date. But again, thank you so much for being here with us today. I hope you enjoy the rest of the event. Cheers. Bye.